The fluorescent lights hummed their familiar tune as I walked through the automatic doors of Metropolitan General Hospital. It was 11 p.m., and the night shift was just beginning. My name is Rachel Thompson, and for the past 8 years, I've been a registered nurse in the emergency department. But that's not the whole truth. That's not who I really am. I smiled at the security guard as I swiped my badge. He nodded, half asleep already, cradling his thermos of coffee. Poor guy had no idea that the woman in scrubs walking past him had killed 17 people in her previous life. 17 confirmed eliminations as Lieutenant Colonel Rachel Thompson, Delta Force operator, specializing in close-quarters combat and tactical medicine. The thing about being Delta is that you never really leave. The training, the instincts, the constant threat assessment, it all stays with you. Even now, as I tied my hair back and checked the patient board, I was counting exits, identifying potential weapons, and categorizing every person in the emergency department by threat level. My colleague, Jennifer, waved me over to the nurses' station. She was young, maybe 25, fresh out of nursing school with that optimistic glow that hadn't been crushed by the healthcare system yet. "Hey Rachel, quiet night so far. Just 2 patients in the waiting room. Both minor stuff." I nodded, accepting the patient charts. Quiet nights in the emergency department always made me nervous. In my experience, both in combat and in nursing, quiet never lasted long. By midnight, the emergency department had settled into its usual rhythm. An elderly man with chest pain in bed 3. A teenager with a possible broken wrist in bed 5. Standard stuff. I moved between patients with practiced efficiency, administering medications, checking vital signs, offering comfort. "You're really good at this," Jennifer said, watching me calm down an anxious patient. "Like, scary good. Where did you work before here?" I gave her my rehearsed answer. "Oh, various hospitals. I moved around a lot." She didn't need to know about Fallujah, or Kandahar, or the compound raid in Yemen where I provided combat medical care while taking enemy fire. At 1 a.m., everything changed. I was restocking supplies in the medication room when I heard it. Most people wouldn't have noticed. But my ears, trained to detect the subtle sounds of danger, caught it immediately. The soft shuffle of tactical boots. The slight rustle of concealed weapons. The whispered coordination of a team moving into position. My heart rate didn't spike. It never did anymore. Instead, that old familiar calm washed over me, the same calm I'd felt countless times when bullets started flying. I casually walked to the doorway and glanced down the hallway. 3 men, dressed in civilian clothes, moving with military precision toward the main entrance. 2 more positioning themselves near the emergency exit, all of them carrying concealed firearms, judging by the way their jackets hung. This was a coordinated assault. I quickly assessed the situation. Approximately 15 staff members on duty. 23 patients, including 2 critical cases who couldn't be moved. Unknown number of hostiles, but at least 5 confirmed. Unknown objective, but the tactical approach suggested either a high-value target in the hospital or a robbery of the pharmacy. Jennifer walked up beside me, carrying a clipboard. "What are you looking at?" Before I could answer, the lights went out. Emergency generators kicked in immediately, bathing the emergency department in an eerie red glow. Then I heard the screams. "Everybody down. This is a robbery. Nobody moves, nobody dies." The voice came from the main hallway. I saw the men now, 4 of them visible. All holding handguns. They weren't professionals. I could tell by the way they held their weapons, by their nervous movements, by their lack of tactical discipline. Desperate men, probably after drugs, who had watched too many movies and thought they could pull off a hospital heist. Dangerous because of their unpredictability, not their skill. Jennifer grabbed my arm, her face white with terror. "Oh my God, Rachel, what do we do?" I gently removed her hand and looked directly into her eyes. "Listen to me very carefully. Take everyone you can and move them into the trauma bay. Lock the door. Don't come out until the police arrive. Can you do that?" "What about you?" "I'll handle this. Trust me." She must have seen something in my expression, something that told her I wasn't just a nurse anymore, because she nodded and started quietly gathering staff members. I moved silently through the emergency department, staying low, using the nurses' stations and equipment as cover. My mind was calculating angles, distances, threat priorities. The old training had taken over completely now. I wasn't Nurse Rachel anymore. I was Lieutenant Colonel Thompson, and I had hostiles in my area of operation. The first gunman came around the corner alone. Mistake number 1, never separate from your team. He was waving his pistol at an elderly patient, demanding to know where the pharmacy was. I moved up behind him, using a supply cart as concealment. When I was close enough, I struck. My elbow connected with his jaw at precisely the right angle. He dropped like a stone, unconscious before he hit the ground. I caught him, lowered him silently, and took his weapon. A Glock 19, 15 rounds. I checked the chamber. One in the pipe. These guys were more prepared than I thought. I secured the weapon in my waistband and moved forward. The sound of breaking glass came from the pharmacy. At least 2 of them were inside, probably filling bags with controlled substances. That meant 2 or 3 still roaming the emergency department. A scream cut through the air. Female. Coming from the waiting room. I moved faster now, no longer concerned with stealth. When I reached the waiting room, I saw one of the gunmen holding a pistol to a pregnant woman's head. Another patient, a large man in his 30s, was trying to be a hero, standing between the gunman and the exit. "Sit down," the gunman screamed. "I will shoot her. I will do it." "No," I said calmly, stepping into the room. "You won't." The gunman spun toward me, his weapon tracking. But I was already moving. Years of close-quarters combat training had made me faster than thought. I closed the distance in 3 steps, trapped his gun hand, and delivered a palm strike to his nose. Blood exploded across his face. He staggered backward, and I swept his legs. He went down hard, his head bouncing off the linoleum. The gun clattered away, and I kicked it under a row of chairs. The pregnant woman was sobbing. The would-be hero was staring at me with his mouth open. I helped the woman to a chair. "You're safe now. Stay here and stay down." 2 down. At least 3 to go. I heard footsteps running toward me. 2 men burst into the waiting room, weapons drawn. They saw their unconscious friend and raised their guns. I was already moving, using the admission desk as cover. They fired. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. Bullets punched through drywall and shattered computer monitors. I drew the Glock from my waistband. I hadn't fired a weapon in almost 3 years, not since I left the military. But some things you never forget. I leaned out and fired twice. Both suppressive shots, aimed at the wall behind them. They ducked, and I advanced. Close-quarters combat isn't like the movies. It's fast, brutal, and decided in seconds. I came around the desk low and fast. The first gunman never saw me coming. I struck his gun hand, redirecting his weapon toward the ceiling, and delivered a knee to his solar plexus. He folded. The second gunman was trying to bring his weapon around, but I was already inside his guard. I trapped his arm, rotated, and used his own momentum to slam him into the wall. He slumped down, dazed. I secured both weapons and checked them for injuries. Bruised, battered, but alive. I zip-tied their hands with the medical supply ties we used for securing equipment. 3 down. 2 in the pharmacy. I moved through the emergency department like a ghost. Staff members peeked out from locked rooms, their faces showing shock and confusion. I signaled them to stay hidden. The element of surprise was my greatest advantage now. The pharmacy was at the end of the main hallway. Its security door had been blown open with what looked like a small explosive charge. These guys had come prepared after all. I approached carefully, weapon ready. Inside, I could hear 2 men arguing. "Forget the oxycodone. Grab the fentanyl. That's where the money is." One of them was clearly more experienced than the others. His voice was calmer, more controlled. I assessed my options. 2 hostels in a confined space with limited exits. Multiple bags of controlled substances, which meant they were almost done. They would be coming out soon. I could wait and ambush them, or I could go in and end this. I chose option 3. "This is the police," I shouted. "The building is surrounded. Come out with your hands up." A lie, but a useful one. I heard scrambling inside, panicked whispers. Then gunfire erupted from the pharmacy doorway. They were firing blindly, hoping to hit something. Rounds tore through the hallway, shattering medical equipment and punching holes in the walls. I waited for a pause in the firing. When it came, I moved. I came through the doorway low and fast, weapon up. The first gunman was reloading. Fatal mistake. I put 2 rounds center mass. Paintball simulation rounds we'd used in training had taught me to always aim for center mass. He went down hard. The second gunman was the leader, the calm one. He was better trained. He fired at me from behind a pharmacy counter, and his shots were controlled and accurate. 1 round tugged at my scrubs. Another shattered a bottle of saline inches from my head. But I had been in firefights with Al-Qaeda fighters, with Taliban insurgents, with professional soldiers who wanted me dead. This guy, despite his training, was just another target. I flanked right, using the pharmacy shelves as cover, and came at him from an angle he wasn't expecting. When I had a clear shot, I took it. One round, he dropped his weapon and clutched his shoulder, screaming. It was over. I secured the last gunman, applied pressure to his wound, and called out to the staff. All clear, it's over. Someone call the police and tell them we need ambulances. Jennifer emerged from the trauma bay, followed by a dozen staff members. They stared at me like I was a stranger. The quiet night nurse who always kept to herself had just neutralized 5 armed gunmen. Rachel, Jennifer whispered. What? Who are you? I looked down at my blood-stained scrubs, at the weapon still in my hand, at the controlled chaos around me. Then I looked back at her and gave her a tired smile. I'm a nurse, I said. But I used to be something else. The police arrived 10 minutes later. Then the questions started. I told them what they needed to know. Former military, medical training, right place, right time. They were suspicious at first, but the hospital security footage and the testimony of 30 witnesses made it pretty clear what had happened. The police captain, a grizzled veteran with 30 years on the job, pulled me aside. Lieutenant Colonel Thompson, he said quietly. I did some checking. Delta Force, 3 combat deployments, Silver Star. That about right, I nodded. He extended his hand. On behalf of the city, thank you. You saved a lot of lives tonight. I shook his hand, just doing what needed to be done. As the sun rose over Metropolitan General Hospital, I sat in the break room, drinking terrible coffee and trying to process what had happened. The adrenaline had faded, leaving me exhausted and shaky. My hands were trembling slightly, a delayed stress response I recognized from combat. Jennifer sat down beside me. So, she said, Delta Force, that's like the most elite special operations unit in the military, right? One of them, I admitted. And you've been working here, as a regular nurse, for years. Why? I thought about how to answer that. Because I wanted to save lives instead of taking them. Because I wanted to be something other than a weapon. Because I thought I could leave that life behind. But you couldn't. No, I agreed. I guess not. She was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. You know what? I'm glad you couldn't. Because everyone in this hospital is alive because of you. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded. The hospital administration wanted to give me an award. The local news wanted to do interviews. The police wanted me to consult on their tactical training. I declined it all. I didn't do what I did for recognition. I did it because people were in danger, and I had the skills to help them. But word spread anyway. Soon, every nurse, doctor, and staff member at Metropolitan General knew that the quiet night nurse was a former Delta Force operator. They treated me differently after that. Not with fear, but with a kind of odd respect. I didn't want to be special. I just wanted to be a nurse. But sometimes, life doesn't give you that choice. Sometimes, your past catches up with you. And sometimes, being who you really are means accepting all the parts of yourself, even the ones you tried to leave behind. My name is Rachel Thompson. I'm a nurse at Metropolitan General Hospital. And I used to be Delta Force. Nobody knew the quiet night nurse was Delta Force until gunmen took over the hospital. But I knew. And when the moment came, I was ready.